your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and I have a very special guest returning to the program. Very excited about our conversation. It was really kind of fun the first time we had him on, and we're going to continue that with author, spiritual psychologist, a performing songwriter, and his name is Dr. Maurice Turmel. And Doctor, thank you so much, or Dr. Mo, how are you doing today? It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, Dr. Mo is just fine.
All right, wonderful.
I'm happy with that.
I tell you,
I don't like the big titles anymore. I'm just happy to be a guy who listens and shares, and that's what I'm happy doing.
Well, I'm trying to do the same thing, and there are times like these that it becomes challenging to listen to others when your own voices in your own head are just going crazy sometimes. And for others, it's understandable. I get that. You have written quite a number of books, including Breaking the Spell of Religion and Healing the Trauma. You've also written The Voice, a spiritual sci-fi adventure, Conscious Evolution, Mythology in Action, and When the Angels Called, Coping with Grief and Loss. And I want to jump back, Mythology in Action, fascinating. And I believe that's part of what Conscious Evolution. I did a series of programs with a gentleman by the name of Will Lynn. He got his PhD in mythology some years ago, but we started this series of programs here on Tell Me Your Story called Mythosophia, basically exploring the depths of myth and wisdom. And I was so profoundly educated in that because I was surprised at how many different realms mythology exists. I never even thought about it in the context of sports, or, for that matter, war. And there's one true story / myth that I know you're probably familiar with, a lot of our listeners may be, and that is the World War I ceasefire on Christmas Eve. Where the Allies and the Germans, they, for whatever reason, decided that this was going to be okay to do. I was actually in a performance on stage at the Libero Theater here in Santa Barbara with the Santa Barbara Rebels of Christmas at Ellis Island. And they went back in time from 1924 to that event where the soldiers shared Christmas Eve together and played a soccer game. Now, the part of it that you might say is myth is no one is quite sure what the score of the soccer game was or who won.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating to learn about how misinformation and fake news and all that kind of stuff, that's one thing.
Yeah,
But mythology, is it not true that mythology usually will have some kind of message and or moral to the story?
absolutely. One of your great researchers who appeared on all kinds of TV programs until he passed, Joseph Campbell, wrote series of books on mythology, and the one that touched me the most was called "The Hero with a Thousand Faces," and he showed how the myth of the hero, in particular, transcends centuries, transcends all cultures, every culture, and every generation of humans that have recorded a history entertain that myth in their collective mythology. And contrary to the use of the term myth in these days, we, t- we tend to, where the world has tended to use the word myth to declare something as false, when that's absolutely not true. What a myth is a common denominator across cultures and across time in terms of a human experience. And I love that story that you're referring to about those warriors in World War One in a trench somewhere, wherever they were in Europe, and pausing, putting their arms down, and putting back on their human spirit and their heart, and just being people with each other, as opposed to these instruments of war that their governments demanded of them. So they had to suspend that. But actually, what they did is they took those masks off and they just were people, guys, enjoying some food together, having a game together, wishing each other well before they had to put on those armored plates. And they're not physical armored plates, they're psychological armored plates, and start shooting at each other again because that's what their governments wanted to do. So, in that sense, the human being inside each one of those people, German or otherwise, that rose to the surface. And that was the common denominators that for a little while they were together that bonded them. The hero myth is visible in every culture, and it's sometimes portrayed. You know, we have these great heroes like Atlas and movie stars have played them, and you know they're conquering and killing some giant beasts or whatever, multi-headed whatever beasts. But the myth of the hero, for me, is more of an analogy to us going inward to ourselves, confronting our trauma. Some people call them demons. Confronting those, owning those, crying them out, screaming them out, writing them out, whatever we have to do. And this is the hero myth or the hero experience applied at the individual level. I've lived it myself. That's why I know it intimately. And when I worked with people going through these dramatic changes, and I'll bet you have as well, going through dramatic changes, confronting these different dimensions of themselves and coming to terms with something. In other words, making a peaceful connection to a different part of themselves. There's an illustration of the hero myth or the hero's journey that is more congruent with the experiences of any individual. You don't have to have a big sword and, muscles, popping out of your head and fighting off giants and monsters to be heroic in the sense of coming to terms with your own PTSD. What about all these guys who came home from Vietnam before we even knew what PTSD was? It used to be called shell shock in those earlier wars, like the one you were illustrating. It was called shell shock. But PTSD gave it a description and gave it dimensions that psychologists like myself, social workers and helpers, could help people confront those fears, those pains, those hurts, those grievances, those grievous losses, and heal them. Grieving is about basically crying out pain and trying to be a tough person and swallowing it is a guarantee of future stress related illnesses. We're way past that now, and especially for men. We're way past that. It's men who are able to and allow themselves to cry, they're not viewed as weak anymore. They're viewed as being real. And we see that with sports people on television. We see it with people, who've achieved great things and or who have a profile that persons that we admire, and we see them tear up because of an event. Let's say people being killed and starved to death in Gaza, for example. We see people tear up. It's real. It's not that you have to force yourself. You're just feeling what you're feeling, and once we're allowed to feel what we feel, anything traumatic that's happened to us can be healed. That's how it works. And feeling is healing.
Mm.
It rhymes.
Yes, it does indeed. Dr. Mo is our special guest here on the program. We're talking, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but he has a book that I hope you'll encourage yourself to go get a copy of this. I'm sure it's available via Amazon. Breaking the Spell of Religion and Healing the Trauma, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and Dr. Mo is with us here. Dr. Turmel, Maurice Turmel, he is a psychologist. He's a musician as well. He's a performer, a jack of all trades in one sense, I suppose you might say. And I want to talk a little bit about the musical aspects here, because on this program, I interviewed my parents 10 years ago. Now, my father has since passed away, but one of the segments we talked about was music. Yeah. And asking how important and why it's so important. And of course, one of the things they worked very hard to do was to give us a foundation or framework for music appreciation. And it wasn't a specific kind of music, no specific genre. They just wanted us to know that it was out there, and we would Christmas carol in the neighborhood year after year. My father played the ukulele and the harmonica. We would sing songs as we would travel on vacation. All of the family, in my elder sisters, my younger sisters, and myself, we have all been parts of high school groups, whether it was the band or in my case, the madrigals, singing groups and so forth. Yeah. There is just something about music that can make all the difference in the world. In addition to, I'm sure as a psychologist you would acknowledge, helping us to work through the trauma, sometimes the grief, sometimes even the good times, the happy times, that when we get into those challenging times, like I feel like I'm in right now, as I've shared with you.
Yes, you are.
And again, this goes back to what you said too about men and the mythologies over their behavior and how they should behave and so forth. And I remember just thinking about the enormity of what my wife and I are experiencing. There are times I just want to go over in the corner and I want somebody else to do it so I can go in the corner and cry.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, from your perspective, the importance in your life and how you share that through your work that music is.
Music, we always think about, or typically think about music as something we hear. What's more important to understand and realize is what we feel, and it's back to feeling again. So certain kinds of music are just basically airy-fairy, and and not to say that that's a negative, just some things are just fun. But some music, and America is the foundational place for the blues, and the blues is about feeling, deep-seated feeling. And the blues is it's a foundational style for me. But it shows up in different ways in country music. It shows up with my generation. It showed up and translated into more upbeat stuff in the 50s and 60s. It was called rock and roll, but it was how it made people feel. So the songs were about simple things, usually love and loss, and and some silly things. The music that I like and value, and that I write and perform myself, is about life experiences, and it's about things like dreaming and acknowledging and celebrating the dreamer inside ourselves. It's about grieving losses. It's about confronting those demons or those traumas. It's about allowing our sorrows to surface and to share, and giving ourselves permission to share, It's about friendship. Well, what's a friend? A friend is a person who listens, so that when you speak and you say what you're feeling, and someone writes a song about a specific kind of event, a specific kind of experience, and people will repeat that song because of what they feel, and how it makes them happy, or how it helps them to get in touch with, let's say, being overwhelmed, as you and your wife may be right now with the moving that you're involved with. You know, feeling erratic, feeling crazy, just feeling overwhelmed. But someone will come along, or something will happen, and you're given a bit of respite. You'll get a kind gesture. Somebody will drop off a thing at your house to help you pack stuff, and they'll give you a smile and say, "Here you go." And do you need help packing that stuff up? There'll be a song about, rescue me, right?
Yeah.
I have a song called "Rescue Me," and it's about me asking for help, and help comes, and it usually comes in a way we didn't expect. It usually comes in the form of a smile, or an encounter, or just something surprising, which is the best kind of answer to our prayers, because when it happens, we know we asked for this, but we never expected this particular package to show up, and there it is. You're walking out of a grocery store, you're stressed, you got to get to your car, you got to unload stuff, and a man comes up to you, and this is an example from my wife and I 2 weeks ago, and he says, "Let me take that cart for you. I'm going over to the disposal area. I'll take care of that." So we take a deep breath, because we were overwhelmed, and that's not a big deal. It's not a life-changing event, but that simple, beautiful gesture, "Here, rescue me." Well, thank you. And the reverse of that is true. You're walking down the street, somebody drops something. It happens to come to your feet. You pick it up. "Excuse me, ma'am, but you dropped this." She turns around. She didn't even know she did. She looks at you, and you're looking at her. You have an encounter. You don't know each other, but you're giving her the gift of a friendly gesture.
Yeah.
And who knows what was going on in her day that day? Who knows if she didn't have a big fight with her husband? Who knows if something tragic, or she received the news of the death of a person? But you were kind, you were open and receptive, and you gave her something. And giving is also receiving. And you probably know this.
Yeah.
When you give, something comes from your own heart.
Yeah.
It feels good, right? So the fact that we need stuff is just being human. The fact that we used to, men in particular, block all of these things up, box them up, and not let them out, that never has helped our cause. So the fact that a song illustrates an experience, a song will help us just have a nice deep breath. Or, you're hugging your partner if it's a nice ballad, and you're having a slow waltz dance. And it just feels good.
Yeah.
And that's what the messages in music, lots of old songs, knock a building down and put up a parking lot. There were songs about this kind of thing back in the 60s and 70s and that. It was about these attacks on our environment. It was about putting stress on the fellow creatures in our lives. When I have my walks now, Richard, in the morning, a 45-minute walk, I touch every tree I possibly can. I say hello to the butterflies. I notice whatever's going on around me, and if I'm walking in a park, there's a good chance of, creatures running around. And there's the occasional person, good morning. I don't know them, they don't know me, but I'm happy to do so. There's music that celebrates that nice gentle walk in the park, or that nice walk barefoot on the beach where your feet are just sinking in. Your band from your area, God, the Beach Boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They sang about those things. They sang about those experiences. They sang about that. My songs are about certainly looking at ourselves inwardly, but they're about reaching out, and they're about, and this is another tough one for men, receiving. Let yourself receive. And so that's what feeling is. It's being more open. And that's for me, the beautiful part of music is what it makes me feel. And when I'm feeling down, then I'm going to play sad music because it's going to help me to deal with those sad feelings. And when I'm feeling joyful, when I'm feeling exuberant, I want something that lifts me up. But whatever the mood is, the music can accentuate that. And the people and I don't know how they did it, it just came from their hearts, but the people who developed the blues, they touched on something so universal. And you know about bands like the Beatles and bands like the Rolling Stones. Well, the Rolling Stones in particular, they saw the merit in the feeling level of that music. And before we knew who the Rolling Stones were, they were in Chicago. They're from England. They came to Chicago, the home of the blues in the northern states, right? The home of the blues, and did some recording with blues artists. They wanted to soak it up, that feeling. And that's what they brought back to Britain and put it in their music. That feeling where people would feel their feelings, whatever the experience was, and whatever people were going through. And that first song of theirs, Can't Get No Satisfaction. Apparently, the melody for that song was Born in Chicago. So, the beauty of music, and then, you lived through it, I did live through it. We had the British invasion. What did the British invasion capitalize on? The rock and roll revolution of America. That's what they capitalized on. They jumped on it. And artists like Jerry Lee Lewis, where did he get his inspiration from? The blues artists in his immediate environment, and he put it into his music, pounding that piano. Elvis Presley did the same thing. They were soaking it up in those black churches and those communities. People were playing this, singing out loud, letting it rip, and there it was. The feeling was there. Then the country people adapted it and put it into their songs. Johnny Cash did. And so many of those great, great artists from the Nashville area. And for me, it's more, there's a spiritual side, because that's a dimension we need to open up to now. We need to understand it's hard to make this, it's a flip in your self-perception. Are we humans in a body who can have spiritual experiences, or are we spiritual beings having a human experience? When you make the mindful flip, oh my goodness, am I a spiritual being having this physical experience? Then you're in a different dimension. And everything that's coming to you or that comes through you becomes part of the package of what you're learning, what you're observing, what you've absorbed, what you're ready to share, and what you're ready to soak up.
Mm.
And music becomes a transporting mechanism to just because music allows us to relax and receive. And boy, us men, we need to receive. We need to just let go and receive. And music is medicine. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Music is medicine.
Well, it's a remarkable thing what I shared earlier about that performance that I was in. We were in the scene in World War One, and I was singing the lyrics to Christmas in the Trenches, where one by one we all came meet in the middle. We shook hands, we exchanged brandy and cigarettes, we gave each other hugs and wished each other well. And I was so into that moment, I thought I was back there then, and my soul, shall we say, said, "What are we doing? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is wonderful that we're stopping, but we're going to go right back to shooting at each other here. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we allowing ourselves?" And I seriously, I actually started to break down. I started to tear up because I was so into that scene. And music does that for us over and over and over again, even if we've heard this song 100 or 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You know, one of my I have three or four favorite artists going back to more of the 70s and 80s. One in particular, Barry Manilow, he has a song called One Voice,
Yeah.
Singing in the Darkness, and so forth. And we all have a voice that we need to express, you
Yeah.
know. Now, my wife and I, in what we're going through, I would have to say I'm probably more open with her now than before because with all that's happening, I just can't keep it in much anymore. And at the same time, my biggest concern is breaking down in front of her. Not so much out of shame, but it's more like my father was a spiritual person, but
Yeah.
he didn't talk about it. It was a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that part of my emotions
Yeah.
seems to me to be a personal thing.
Yeah.
I had a bawling session in the shower after my father's passing, you
Well,
know,
of
that
course.
kind of thing. And I shared the experience with my wife, but
Sure.
not the tears, not the sobbing and so forth.
It's
So,
okay to do some of those things on your own and privately because in that moment you need the privacy to do that.
yeah,
But sharing after the fact what you were feeling and what you were expressing and what you were allowing out, that's perfectly legitimate. And that's about being open. You don't have to be bawling in front of people to be open.
yeah,
Some of those experiences, they're okay. When I journal every night, and I recommend journaling in my book for people. When you're feeling something and there's no one around, and whether there is or there isn't, you write out what you're feeling and what that hurt, scared, upset, angry, whatever that part of you is saying, you write it down. You know, religion would tell you to squash it because it's bad and because it's sinful, ta da ta da ta da. But the fact is that what's coming through you emotionally is something important to you. And if you write it down, then you're not likely to accumulate a lot of stress and to go pull a gun on somebody later on.
yeah,
By writing things down, by expressing them, by going to a gym and pounding on a punching bag, whatever you need, you allow it to come out. And the message to your inner self is whatever you're feeling, I'm listening. Okay? I'm the guy on the outside and something's going on in there. You're going to tell me about it, or you're going to show me, or we're going to punch it on a bag, or we're going to write it down, or we're going to cry in the shower where we can just wail and just let it out. I mean, what do you feel when some of those great singers are just wailing? My
mm,
God, what are they showing us? But the expression of the deepest emotion. And it's those singers that blow our minds, right?
yeah,
Because what are they doing? they're free to express that deepest emotion, that most powerful emotion. And it's like their example is permission to us to allow ourselves to do the same thing.
Yeah.
This is healthy.
Yeah. You
And when
know,
religion condemns these things, Richard, they squash us
yep.
because it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
wrong. You should only have good thoughts. Should never be angry at this or that.
Yeah.
That is nonsense.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can be your feelings. And you notice maybe today's parents, they're telling you when their children are fighting with each other, a mom or dad will say, use your words. Use your words. What are you feeling? Okay, so the children are encouraged to express what they're feeling
mhm.
rather than pounding on their brother or sister,
Yeah.
rather than hurting the animal.
Yeah.
They're invited to express what they're feeling. They're not told to shut it off,
Yeah.
which is criminal,
Yeah.
which is harmful, which is what builds trauma. So freedom of expression, which is a fundamental American thing, zip right across the board, freedom of expression means more than just saying what you think. In
Hmm.
the broadest sense of just being a human being, it's the freedom to express what you feel.
Yeah.
And your body and your soul and your heart will love you for it
Yeah.
because you know that feeling, the great sense of relief afterwards. So after we're done today and you need to unload, go out and pound something or whatever you need to do to get that stress out and to get that frustration out. Give yourself permission to do it, let it out, and then take a few deep breaths and say, okay, Richard, we're going to be fine now. Just let yourself have it.
I was working on a song that I was writing. I've actually written three songs. The first song I wrote was back in the 90s, and I lost the lyrics for a long time. And as I've been going through my studio, I found them again,
Oh,
and I
good.
put them in my briefcase so I won't lose them. The second song I wrote had to do with where I was 5 years ago, called "I'm a Good Man Doing the Best I Can."
Mm-hmm.
The third song I wrote for my father before his passing.
Okay.
He never got to hear it, and I've never really recorded it per se. But the main chorus was, "Daddy, you know how much I love you. Daddy, I know how much you care.
Yeah.
Daddy, I wouldn't be the man I am if you had not been there."
Uh,
Now, what was interesting was that I shared that song at my father's memorial. And of all of the talks, all of the comments that were made by my sisters and brother and others who got up to speak, this wasn't choreographed or anything, but the theme for my father, his memorial would have been, "We would not be who we are if you had not been in our lives."
yeah.
And I am grateful for the fact that he was in my life and I in his, and what he shared with all of us. And I think about, you know, I'm not a poet in that classical sense, shall we say. However, I've learned that music, getting back to music, is just that. It is, in many instances, it is poetry
Yep.
put to song, put to music.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that we kind of forget that. So if we've got those feelings inside, and by the way, speaking of feelings, another paradox that I find interesting, and you see this quite often in documentaries, often when people are there, they're sharing what they're sharing, whatever the event was that they're documenting, and then they start to cry and they
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
To which I sort of respond to the TV, do you apologize when you laugh? Do you apologize when and maybe you do when you get angry if you've hurt someone or even yourself, but all of the other emotions we never apologize for. Why are we apologizing for the tears, for the sorrow, you
Yeah.
know? And one of the things that I have learned, and this I actually learned from the artist Adele, and
Oh,
a lot of people, they kind of wonder, my goodness, how did she become so big so fast? It's because the songs that she wrote came from her heart.
Yep.
They came from what she experienced in her life. And
Yep.
it's the same thing with, for example, the country artist, formerly rap artist, Jelly Roll. Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to country music most of the time in the car. And many of those songs
Yeah.
are, some of them are about people who've passed on, maybe not a specific person, but the passing of a good friend or a father, mother, sister, brother, etc. And I'll tell you that over the last 5 years, I've lost so many people. But then again, as we get older, I'm sure you know this, Dr. Mo, that's what happens. People, my father once said that eat, drink, and be merry in moderation because nobody gets out of this world alive.
That's for sure.
And as far as the physical body is concerned, but I
Yeah.
also learned too through several people's passing from cancer that when you hear the phrase, oh, they lost their battle with cancer, and I say, no, they didn't. It's a
Yeah.
win-win. If it goes into remission, you have won for a
Yeah.
little while.
Yes.
But if it causes the body to cease to function, you've still won because you're no longer trapped in that body.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about, the celebration of life as it's been termed for the last, 20, 30, 40 years, rather than, a funeral or a wake and what have you, that really is the case because
Sure.
we were in it and we made a difference. Dr. Mo's my guest, and we're going to continue here on Tell Me Your Story.
When God sings the blues, He sings for you and me. When God plays the blues, He prays for all to see that He is part of us, we are of Him too. When God sings the blues, He does for all mankind. Wants us to wake up, to rise and shine. His heart is our own, we are of Him too. And God sings the blues, God sings the blues, God sings the blues now, and God sings the blues. Oh, God sings the blues. When God sings the blues to all concerned and open, He says, step this way, please, your heart won't be broken. I am the light and path, the love you shall remember. And God sings the blues, God sings the blues, God sings the blues now, and God sings the blues. Oh, God sings the blues.
I'm Richard Dugan, and granted that was a rather abrupt transition, but Dr. Mo, this is something that you deal with, I'm sure, on a regular basis as a spiritual psychologist. Tell me, what does that mean, a spiritual psychologist?
It's it's um it's to be open to that inner dimension. So, as long as we're in a body and we see that as the priority that we have to take care of, then connecting with our deeper selves, which is done through our emotions, through our heart, and that's just a different way of talking about allowing ourselves to feel that spiritual dimension. In my case, and people who I associate with, and doing their own due diligence, then we're not talking about a God in heaven sitting in a chair passing judgment. I think George Carlin gave us a good picture of that. Rattling through all the things about how we're all damaged, screwed up, and broken, sinful, ta ta ta. But God loves you. He kind of pointed out that contradiction.
Yeah.
The God that I'm talking about is energy, and it's the energy of us inside this body. And religion will want to call it soul. Fine. So souls are eternal. Well, if we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, then the physical part of us and our physical identity needs to connect with our spiritual identity. And our higher self is that spiritual portion of ourselves, kind of like, standing behind us, what we used to refer to as guardian angels, but that higher dimension of ourselves that subtly nudges us along. We need this experience, or we need that experience, or we ask for specific things. The importance of the connection is that the idea of a God sitting in a chair in heaven is, let's hope, it's, at least for me, it's gone. But the idea of, and it's not just an idea, it's a felt experience, and this is the beauty of feeling. You're going to have, as you dig and go deeper into your own self and understand your own self and all your emotions and your heart. Home is where the heart is. That is home. The heart is our feeling nature, and the heart is what connects us to our spiritual self. And our spiritual self is here kind of watching over us, but we're having this experience of bringing that spiritual connection, making it visible for others to see, and encouraging others to see that as a viable, not a viable goal, but a viable opportunity as they work through whatever feeling and emotional issues they have to, as a viable opportunity to connect with this higher part of themselves. This is not magic. This is not superstition. This is not ooga booga. This is a higher level of who we are. Okay? I have conversations with my higher self. I know I'm not crazy. My mother had me tested. Anyway, but I have conversations, right? And my higher self, I just, the way it works is I'm journaling, all right? And I'm the first page of my journaling, I'm just getting, I was upset about this today, something happened, or I had a good day. And then I just pause and I say, okay, big guy, tell me what you see. And I write the ideas and the thoughts that come into my mind. And I'll tell you, they're full of surprises. Mm. And it's like an adult is talking to you and saying, okay, Richard, yes, you're having a rough day. Yeah, you had those events, or those people bothered you, or you got this stress of having to move right now. But there's something big and beautiful waiting for you. I know it's hard to see that right now because you're dealing with the day-to-day stuff. I know it's hard for you to see that. But Look at your friends in Washington. They're waiting for you. If you need an emergency situation, you're covered. So you got plan B and you got plan A. You're covered. And you're going to feel better at the end of it. Now, a few weeks down the road, you're going to remember that conversation, or you're going to go back to your journal because you wrote that down, and you're going to say, he was right. That's what he told me. That's what that part of me said. You're okay. You got this. Okay? That's as good as your wife saying it to you. That's as good as your best friend saying it to you. But when it comes from the inside and it surprises you, where did that come from? It
Yeah.
comes from that higher self. It comes from that bigger you, the bigger you that's looking after you. And believe me, I've got 30 years of experience with this, and I learned in the 80s, and I learned it from someone who was a master at journaling and inspired me to try it, and I've been doing it ever since. 10 minutes of my day, Richard, 10 minutes,
Hmm.
and it's all done, and I've got some perspective. I unload what I'm stressed about or whatever I'm worried about, and then I get the feedback. And just imagine the kindest part of you, the kindest person you might know, non judgmental, listening, giving you feedback, and once in a while saying, come on, you can get past this. You can get past this.
Yeah.
Giving you a nudge, right? That's your heart.
Yeah.
That's your higher dimensional self.
Yeah.
That's spirituality. That's why I call myself a spiritual psychologist. Because that dimension, and how did I get there? Psychology took me there.
Hmm.
Because when I got into psychology, I was a messed up Catholic, didn't know up from down. I was broken. I was guilt ridden. I was shamed. And I had a marriage that fell apart. And I couldn't understand why my life wasn't working. And then I started reading this material in the 70s. I started reading this and I started learning. And I said, holy mackerel, there's at least some way or some dimension or some access I can have to that'll help me understand what's going on with me. Because not knowing what was wrong is one thing, but knowing something's wrong and then seeing that there's help for it,
Hmm.
okay, that's liberation.
Yeah.
And that path, 50 years later, Richard, 50 years later, the last 10 years, I've been talking to my higher self. No problem. And some days, no, he's never nasty. He's never nasty. But some days I get tuned up. And it's okay. It's okay. It's coming from you. But also sharing those things with people. Sharing, of course, with your partner. My wife is my partner. We share everything, all right? But she has her issues and she has things to deal with, but we share with each other. And if I need a good cry like you have in the shower, I'm allowed to do that. I don't have to be tough guy anymore. And that's an important thing as a man that you and I need to know. We don't have to be that because the tough people are the people who are willing to feel their life. Those are the toughest people. Those are the most advanced people. They're feeling their life. And that is liberation in a big, big sense. And then you've heard the term multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
We're multidimensional beings. There's this physical person that we are right now, but there's this outer or larger dimensional self, spiritual self that's part of us. And connecting with these different dimensions is part of life's journey. And we get there as long as we don't throw any more roadblocks in front of ourselves. So learning to trust ourselves, which sadly most religions don't do or encourage, sadly, learning to trust ourselves is the road home because home is where the heart is and where we feel. And where we feel is where we are real.
Hmm. Dr. Mo is my guest here on Tell Me Your Story, and we're going down a fascinating path. I think this program would be more focusing on our emotional selves, and especially for men in particular. I do have to share that I had an opportunity many years, some years ago, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago. I had an opportunity to interview, probably at that time, the head or the the voice, if you will, for sort of the men's movement, Robert Bly. He'd written a book called Iron John, which two of my friends and I used back in 1993 as our sort of our textbook for our men's group that I'd started.
Oh,
And it
good.
was just the three of us. And I actually had him on the phone trying to, or I can't remember now whether it was in on the phone or in person. Where he was going to be. He declined the interview, saying that he didn't want to answer the same old questions about when does a boy become a man and those kinds of things. Which, if I had known that, I certainly would have stayed away from those questions.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting that he turned me down for that interview, which I did my utmost not to turn on him, because that's his opinion, that's his perspective, that's where he's coming from, and he's probably turned down other people to do interviews for the same reason. So it's like I'm not, being singled out. It wasn't personal, I guess is the phrase.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the things too that we especially I guess especially as men, and we will have somebody who will do us wrong. And in recent years, I've had that happen. I was very disappointed. Yes, there was money involved, but the money wasn't the issue. It was the loss of the relationship. And what I want to talk about is one of your books, When Angels Come, Coping with Grief and Loss, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story.
I am what I am is what we have to say. I am that I am, come what may. I believe in heaven and the love I have seen. I believe in all things that God brings about. I believe in love, on that there's no doubt. Do you believe in love? On that we must pray. We think that we're ordinary when we are not. We think love's kindness is not what we're about. Let's believe in magic and all that brings peace. I am what I am is what I have to say. I am that I am is how I must pray. I believe we can do what we came here to do. I believe in me, and I believe in you.
When Angels Come, Coping with Grief and Loss. Dr. Mo, let's talk a little bit about that, because it isn't just about someone passing on and leaving this world and going on to wherever it is they go. But loss is loss of a job, loss of a relationship, loss of a home, loss of whatever it is something that's important to you. I know that if I was to, I suppose if I was to lose my father's harmonica, that might hurt, because I do want to learn one day to play it. I don't think it's a difficult instrument to play, but nonetheless, I carry it with me literally everywhere I go in my briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
But we're dealing with loss all the time, and sometimes loss of privileges, loss of, being who we are. We have, you talked earlier about, the soldiers putting on the iron mask, metaphorically speaking, after taking off the mask and just being human beings, just being men. I think about Tim Allen and his comedic stuff about men are pigs, and where that's they need to spend time around other guys, and it's not anti-woman as he was accused at one point of being. I got it. He's not being anti-woman. He's saying, look, just like girls need girls' night out or what have you, guys need that too. And it's not just about going to the football game or a sporting event or what have you. We're going out. My father would go out with two guys that we called uncles. They'd take a cooler of beer, and they'd have cigars, and they'd have food and what have you. They'd go out into the desert for the weekend, just to hang and be guys. Let's talk about the loss of those kinds of things. I don't know that we necessarily want to put them in a category from 1 to 10 intensity, but just in general, I know that there are those steps. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I believe it was, had those seven stages of grief that don't come in any particular order. But from your perspective, how do you deal with grief, and how do you help people who come to you, the spiritual psychologist, to deal with grief? And
well,
do they really get through it? I mean,
well, people and women in particular are the first ones at the door when it comes to dealing with the big griefs of like losing people. But I mean, women are not excluded from the impact that men are more typical to feel and trying to shut things down. But predominantly they have more permission to feel and address those feelings, and they do so more liberally. So the big ones can require help. It's certainly losing someone close to you, or actually just knowing that there's going to be grief involved with saying goodbye to a pet, saying a friend, a partner, someone very close to you, a parent, a brother, a sister, a wife, a husband. Those are the big ones for sure. But saying goodbye to a pet is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
My wife and I have had 4 dogs and 2 cats, and we've said goodbye to all our dogs so far, and I'm still grieving our last one, a Bernese mountain dog. Beautiful animal. And this is just a quick aside, but we do this so naturally for animals. When we see them suffering, you were talking about people having their fight with cancer. we see these pets suffering. The decision comes. What are we going to do? Do we let them suffer until they have their last breath, or do we pull the plug and stop the suffering, which is the kindest thing we could do at that point of saying goodbye to a pet. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's the kindest thing to do. And this new idea of people ahead of time setting things up so they could check out when they want to is not a bad idea at all. But just to stick with the example, it's easier for us to make the decision for a pet. I mean, we're not going to make the decision for a fellow human being or a partner. Those are big losses. So the medical system is designed to fight and fight and fight. But at some point, people have to make those decisions. Am I going to get chemotherapy? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages were about people confronting a terminal illness. More so, they overlap with grief in general, but more so than saying goodbye to someone, because when someone passes away and we get that information, we may say no to the extent that it seems unbelievable, but we can't say no to the extent that we're denying that they died. They didn't die. So they're passed away. We have to accept that they're gone. So there's no denial to be involved there. But the other losses, are they losses or are they just growth spurts? We have our high school education. Kids are close to all of that, and they have, for a lot of people, they have long-lasting relationships afterward. Well, then you're reading the paper 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, and there's somebody you were playing with or hanging out with, and there they are in the obituaries. And so you have reactions to that. Losing a job. If you're loving what you're doing, but things happen like, economic reasons. So it's going to be sad. It's going to be difficult. But a lot of times, you're going to turn around and there'll be something else to replace it. And in fact, you needed to let go of that other thing so that this new thing could come to you. So this new dimension can come to you in your life, this new opportunity. And for you and your wife, this new home, whatever it's going to be. And hopefully it's going to be a beautiful place that you two are going to make it your own. So, yeah, this is a rough stretch right now, and there's grief involved, without a doubt. The comfort of the familiarity. My wife and I are actually looking at where we're going next, because we've been in this home for 14 years, and we want something different. Not just because we want something different, but we're older, so our needs are different. What's good for us is different. So it's going to be hard to let this place go. We've had 3 pets while we were here. We have friends, great neighbors, we have people all around us, and we're going to go to a different part of the city. We are going to be sad, but we are also going to be excited about the next chapter. And for us, there's another chapter. And as long as there's another chapter, we have to let go of things so we can move on to that next chapter. And sometimes we do that willingly, and sometimes it's thrown at us, and we have to deal with it. How we deal with it is testimony to our own strength and our own self-care. And as long as we're in charge of our self-care, and good self-care is a priority in our life, we will do what is best for ourselves. And that's just good self-care. Yeah. So that gets us from A to B to C to D to whatever's next. And let's be surprised again. It's harder to do when we're older. It's harder to let go of the familiar because we got those routines. It's harder, for sure. It's harder. It pisses us off. It upsets us. It's frustrating. Mm-hmm. But then the other side of it, the new stuff. Okay, what's going to be different, what's going to be good, what are we going to have to say goodbye to permanently, ta-da, 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 whatever those things are. That's a transition. Well, ultimately, the last transition is when we say goodbye to our body.
Yeah.
But knowing there's life after, knowing our higher dimensional selves are waiting for us, and people, if you ever want a little bit of an uptick in your understanding and a little bit of enthusiasm about the last chapter, read anything by people who've had near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen things, experienced things, and come back with information that's really important to share and really important for us to know. There is more waiting for us after the fact.
Yep.
This is an experience. This
Yep.
life is an experience, and it's a growth experience. So any changes that means loss but new opportunities is a growth experience.
Yep.
Sometimes we go kicking and screaming. Sometimes we make the decision and we do it, right? That's what life throws at us. Grieving is a natural part of going through any transition. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be tears. And losing people is probably the toughest thing of all.
Yeah.
It's probably the toughest thing. But when we can be happy for the person who's gone, we can be happy about the great life they had, and we can be happy that they made the decision. I know I'm not going to do chemo. I've lived my life. I'll just stay comfortable in this hospice for now. I'll have my last few weeks or months here with all these people who are taking care of me. Visit me as much as you can. There's a peace, and that's Kubler-Ross's acceptance. That's the acceptance level.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. It's not like we're being thrown a curve here. We know pretty much from the time we can start thinking, and we see animals die, and we hear about people dying. We know pretty much from the beginning that's going to be the end at some point.
Yeah.
But when you're young, it's miles away, so who cares? But when you're getting in your 70s and 80s, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But my motto is, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
grieving is just part of that feeling process, Richard.
Yeah.
And grieving is whatever you need to do. Cry, scream, yell, whatever you need to do. Let yourself do it. Get it out. And then the stress will calm down, and you might see something different, but the new experience is going to show you things that you hadn't thought of because you couldn't see them while you were still attached to what was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the hard thing about letting go. But we can't see what's next until we let something go. And it's like, that's, what do they call that? The dark night of the soul,
Yeah.
or it's that experience of going in between things,
Yeah.
and so it narrows and then it spreads again,
Mhm. Yeah.
like that. And a lot of the depicted heroes' journeys, the depicted ones,
Mhm.
right? You'll see them on a sailing ship, and they're going into a narrow area where there's storms, where there's all kinds of stuff, and then so the boat gets turned upside down. People are thrown everywhere. And then on the other side is peacefulness, is width, is calm, right? That's the physical demonstration of a transition. Transitions are tough, but there is something on the other side, and you can't see it till you get there. So
Yeah. Well, Dr. Mo, I'm fascinated by all that we've been talking about, and obviously there's a lot of grieving going on at our end, not only in
Yes.
terms of the loss of where we've been for over 19 years, but in some instances, some of the things we may have brought with us, or some of the things that we acquired while we were here that we're going to have to leave behind. But at the same time, and it was actually about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, that I had finally sort of mentally said, I just want to go. I've had enough of this particular place, and I just want to go. And I know my wife, I don't know that she's there, but there are some things that we're going to take with us, but there are some things that we need to leave behind. And it's like we're leaving it behind because we can't really take it with us. It's too big.
Yeah.
and we'll get another one. We'll
Yeah.
get another one to start our new, fresh adventure. And that's something that's real important to keep in mind. And what you said earlier about the coming together and splitting apart, one of my guests, who's, by the way, goes by the name of Zen, made the comment when stuff like this, yeah, exactly, who made the comment when stuff like this happens. She said, what you want to start saying to yourself is, this could be the best thing that could ever have happened to us.
Mhm.
And with some of the things that are unfolding here, even today, as we converse, the universe has already made the decision for us. As much as we'd like to, I'd like to go over this way on the fork in the road to the left, which would be a lot of fun. There's just way too much uncertainty over here. And then over here on the right, we have a secure place. Don't know when it'll be available, but at least it's going to be a place we will be able to go to right away once it's available, and so
Yeah.
forth and so on. So it's really exciting. What we need to do real quickly here is just take a quick pause and tell you are listening to Tell Me Your Story.
Have you heard this song before? Is someone knocking at your door? Time to step on in, time to just begin, time for you to win. We are all part of this new season. We are all here for the same reason, to help prepare the world, to help ourselves unfurl, to occupy our hearts. Occupy your heart, that's a good start. Occupy your soul, you'll never grow old. Occupy your dreams, those silly schemes. Occupy your heart, occupy your soul, find your way home. So far we found it hard to trust, but now we know trusting's a must. Time to come on home and see how much we've grown and occupy our hearts. Just one more thing I say to you, His love for us is all that's true. So let's say it again, that's where to begin, to occupy our hearts. We are a witness to this change. We've come together to arrange those seeds of love cast from above to occupy our hearts. Now is the time for us to shine. This is our chance to realize. So get ready to start and occupy your heart and let it shine. Occupy your heart, that's a good start. Occupy your soul, you'll never grow old. Occupy your dreams, those silly schemes. Occupy your heart, occupy your soul, and find your way home. Occupy your heart, that's a good start. Occupy your soul, you'll never grow old. Occupy your dreams, those silly schemes. Occupy your heart, occupy your soul, and find your way home. Occupy your heart, occupy your soul, and find your way home.
Dr. Mo has been my guest, and of course, we're talking about a lot of things. And his latest book, I don't want to forget mentioning that, Breaking the Spell, yes, indeed, do that too. Breaking the Spell of Religion and Healing the Trauma. And we hope you will get a copy of that at Amazon. I think I asked you before, but I'll ask you again. Is it available in Audible yet?
Yes.
I'm going to grab a copy. I want to listen to it. It'd be nice to read it. And then there's a website you folks can go to, and it's a little long. We'll be linked to it. It's drmo, that's DRMOE 2000.bandcamp.com, where you can hear some of the music that this man has created, and you'll be hearing that throughout this program. We'll be going in and out with that, so I hope you will enjoy that. Dr. or Maurice, I want to ask you those three final questions I asked you last time, because sometimes the answers change. And if they don't, that's fine too. But before I do, thank you so much for what you've shared. I've gotten a little choked up throughout this program myself because I feel that on one level, the end is getting nearer, the end of this, but also a new beginning that could be, again, even better than what we could have anticipated. So I thank you for sharing these thoughts and ideas and with myself as well as our listeners and viewers.
Yeah. Richard, you're a good example of everything we were talking about in this moment in your life. You couldn't give your audience a better example of a transition. Exactly what you're living right now and what you and I were talking about. You're living it. So that's the best kinds of examples we pass on to people is in my book, my life and my experience as a Catholic and as a person who was squashed by that religion is as much important as all the people I worked with after the fact. It's as important, and it makes it I want to say more authentic, but it makes it more real in the sense that I wasn't studying this from a distance, like a helicopter flying over something. I lived it. And so I know it. I know that experience, that trauma, I know it intimately. And I know what I've had to do for myself. And thankfully, over the years, I garnered the tools to help me do that. But I've talked to people about it. I can't do everything. I don't do everything by myself. And my wife is a good listener, but I have some friends who are good listeners. And then I do my journaling, and that helps me just get stuff out. So being an example and being willing to be that example. Yes, I'm going through this, like you're talking about what you're going through right now. That's going to help people, Richard. That's going to help people see exactly, you're living exactly what we're talking about. And I've lived it, and there's other things waiting for me, I'm sure. And and somewhere down the road, you and I are going to talk again, and you're going to tell me about this new world you're in and what that's like, and how excited you are and how thankful you are, whatever it is, and all the surprises that are waiting for you. So I will look forward to that.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., pardon me, Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. We are also on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll click So I hope you'll subscribe and click notification as well. Please go to Amazon and pick up my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. And it's available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, with the Audible soon to be released, hopefully in the month of publication 1 year later.
Hmm.
And then we also hope that you will leave us a tip. Our tip jar is called PayPal. We have a link to both Amazon and PayPal on the homepage of richarddugan.com. And give us what you can, support us with what you can. We'll take energetic support as well. We can use all the help we can get. And as Dr. Mo has shared with us throughout, please take time during this decade of perfect vision to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. And with all of that, we go to those 3 questions that I ask all of my guests. And I've asked them of our guest, Maurice Turmel, but I'm going to ask him again. Who is Maurice Turmel?
Well, I'm the guy who lived the life that I talk about in my books and that I sing about in my music. That's who I am.
What gets you up in the morning?
Usually the cat meowing at my door. Feed me, feed me. But no, I'm always excited about a new day. And I start my day with that walk that I was describing to you earlier.
Mm.
It's necessary to feel that connection to the world around me, to the natural world, right? And all the little things and the big things. And hopefully it's not raining. But unless it's raining hard, I'm going to walk. I'll put on a jacket and a hoodie, whatever I need, and I'll walk in the rain because I need to feel that. And that's the way my day starts. And from there, yeah, whatever comes up, it comes up. Whatever's planned, I deal with that. But wherever my heart wants me to go or needs me to go, or the simple practical things, that's what the day is filled with. Mm. And today, my requirements were to be here and to share again with you. It was great for me the last time, and it's great for me again.
Well, we thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here, and we thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because really, I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.